Hello and welcome to the Feminist Poetry Festival. I'm delighted to introduce Sharanya Mannivanan, a writer, a poet, and illustrator who is out with her new book. Illustrated by Sharanya herself, Incantations Over Water is a lyrical novel that narrates the tale of a mermaid based on a folklore in a Sri Lankan town. I'll be talking to Sharanya about this book, her journey into writing, and more. Welcome, Sharanya. Welcome to Feminist Poetry Festival.
Thank you so much for having me, Charvi. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So let's start the conversation by asking you about the inception of this book.
Sure. So actually, there are two books. One, as you said, is Incantations Over Water. Let me show that to you. This is my graphic novel, Incantations Over Water. And it has a companion book, a picture book called Mermaids in the Moonlight. And both of them together form my Ila duology. And Ila is the mermaid whom I created because I could not find the mermaid stories in the folklore when I went looking. And the inception for these books is that my family is from Batticaloa in the east of Sri Lanka. And it's a real natural phenomenon. I've experienced it myself. On full moon nights, if you go into the lagoon and you hold the dry end of your paddle to your ear, and you put the other end in the water, you can actually hear these strange sounds. They sound, to me, they sounded like frogs. To other people, they've sounded like rudravinas. These unusual noises, and nobody knows conclusively who or what makes them. There's been research conducted even from colonial times, scientific research, I mean, and some people say that shells make the sounds. Many people assume that it's a kind of fish. So Batticaloa is known as the town of the singing fish. And everywhere in this town are mermaids on the public facades. Even as you enter, there's an arch right at the entrance of town with three mermaids sitting on it. And I can actually show you an image. This is from Mermaids in the Moonlight. Here, there you go.
Looks lovely, yeah.
Yeah, so there's, and they're everywhere. They're on pillars, they're on plaques, they're on menu cards. They're very much a part of the public symbolism of the town. But they're not in the stories, they're not in folklore. And that to me was very intriguing because how can there be a mythic figure without there being myths? So exploring this question was what led to the creation of Incantations Over Water and Mermaids in the Moonlight. And I discovered so much more about the landscape and my culture and current affairs, including the Civil War on the island, so much more than I expected um, in this folkloric void.
Yes. And Sharanya, if you could also tell us something about the genesis of the character Ila in your book.
Sure. So Ila's name is part of the word Ilangai, which is the Tamil word for Sri Lanka, for the island. And as I said, because there weren't any mermaid folk tales, and there was no particular figure. A particular um, name or personality attached to this figure that was all over town. She was the only mermaid whom I had to make up. And in Mermaids in the Moonlight, in the picture book, a mother from the diaspora takes her child to the lagoon, and they spend time that night listening to the sounds from under the water. And the mother tells the little girls mermaid stories from around the world. And they sort of invent or conjure Ila themselves. They talk about what if, who's our mermaid who lives in these waters, and they name her. And then in Incantations Over Water, um, Ila is the narrator. And this time, a woman, again, a woman from the diaspora, goes to the lagoon looking for her roots essentially. And she meets Ila, and Ila takes her through a seduction, a soliloquy, a spell, really, that she tries to put on her. And that's not really a spoiler because Incantations Over Water is pure magic. Mermaids in the Moonlight has a lot more science, a lot more um, of multiple possibilities. Yeah.
And Sharanya, how was your experience of writing a graphic novel in terms of, because you have written, you have done other kinds of writing as well. So how was this experience of writing a graphic novel, including the one that you wrote before this? How is this experience different from your experience of doing earlier kinds of writing?
This is my first graphic novel, and so I've written and illustrated both these books. What was interesting to me in this process was that the illustrator in me definitely had more say than the writer, and the illustrator in me also had a much easier time because the the drawing and the painting were just pure pleasure. But writing Incantations, I actually went into it after several years of research and, having already released Mermaids. I went into it sort of, um, with a feeling like this is not going to be so difficult. It's not a lot of words. I'll probably do it in a couple of weeks. And I was humbled um, to find that I sometimes worked on just a page a day, which is to say a paragraph a day. And it took me as much time as it turned out to write the book as I did illustrating it.
And what made you choose the name Incantations Over Water? What's the story behind that?
Well, like I said, it's a book um, with a lot of magic of all kinds, um, and yeah, I think it's a very um, it's just a title that fits because that's very much what this book is about.
And the strong and feminist character that has so many layers to it, as you mentioned. How hard was it for you to bring all of it together, or was it not hard at all
How hard was it for me to do what? I'm not sure I understood the question.
to portray the character in the way you did?
Oh, it was not difficult at all. I write feminist characters throughout my books in all genres. So that's an approach that comes completely naturally to me. Um, and in fact, the the dominant culture in Batticaloa for a long time was matrilineal and matrilocal. And bringing out those elements in both these books um, was was very important to me because that is the culture I come from, which has since it's disappearing if not disappeared. And because of that, because the culture itself has a deeply proto-feminist ethos um, that lent itself very naturally to my contemporary feminist approach.
Sharanya, do you see a new interest in a growing interest of people who are reading graphic novels? Like, how does the market look like?
To be really honest with you, with the sudden closure of Westland Books, which has impacted both these books, I really don't know how I can comment on or gauge what the market is like. And if I may just take this opportunity very quickly to say that Mermaids in the Moonlight goes out of print this month in February. And February 15th is the very last date that bookstores can order their stock. Incantations, because it's a brand new book, goes out of print in March. So there are still a few weeks left to purchase it, but this has been devastating to all of us involved with Westland, whether we are authors or editors or translators or in the publicity team, design, everybody, and readers, of course, have severely been impacted. And first and foremost, I am a reader. So I would really just like to encourage people, if you are keen on picking up either of my books or anything from the Western catalog, you have just left. These books will disappear from the market. There is absolutely no telling whether they will be reprinted or how or when. There are numerous intricacies, dynamics, legalities, funding issues, politics, all kinds of things that will impact whether or not these books come back. Um, Thank you for letting me, just get that across to readers.
What's your
So,
writing like? Yeah.
okay, whether it's writing or illustration, I tend to get very, very immersed, but only when I'm in a project. And there are huge gaps. I'm certainly not the kind of person who creates every day. I try and read every day though. But sometimes it'll be a year or two without being immersed in a project. And um, I really disagree with you have to write every day in order to be a writer. That doesn't, unless that gives you pleasure, don't do it. And I think just if you're if you listen to when your inspiration is calling you, and you give yourself and you give the work the space and the honoring that it needs, that results in true creativity and beauty. Showing up at the desk every day, for most people, results in meeting a deadline. And I would like to say here that most authors in India, the vast majority, have day jobs. So we're meeting deadlines um, in so many other ways. Why make creativity one more deadline? That being said, there are ways to carve time into your schedule, and that is something that each person, each writer, or whatever kind of creativity you pursue, you must find a way that works for your rhythms. And when you're in that space, honor it completely.
I completely agree with you, Sharanya, when you said that it's not mandatory for a writer to write every day. So, do you think reading and writing are two things that should go hand in hand? Like, there are a lot of youngsters who want to become writers, but they don't devote enough time to reading. What's your message to them? How important do you think reading is in order for them to become a good writer?
Reading is the most important thing in order to become a good writer. And it's really sad that many aspiring writers in India and even some published authors don't read, or else they don't read their contemporaries. They don't read work that is published in this country by authors and translators who are working in the same milieu. Um, and you can see the effect of that. Most of the time, you can see the effect of that in their writing. Um, there is a crisis of readership in this country. The closure of Western books indicates this, and I just wish that everybody who loves books would spend a little time thinking about the sustainability of the arts, what it means to create in a capitalist world, what our consumer choices um, do really in terms of um, who we support through our consumer choices and how. I think these questions, rather than just, oh, I enjoy picking up the occasional book or watching, the occasional short film, whatever it may be, um, a little bit of reflection on ourselves as consumers, because in a capitalist system, we are consumers, not just enthusiasts or supporters or lovers. Um, that will go a long way to reshaping the infrastructural support that the arts have in this country and everywhere.
I second that. Sharanya, how do you deal with something like a writer's block? What do you do to get rid of it?
Well, as I said, as long as you don't hold yourself to, as long as you don't force yourself to write, then you're all right. There's no such thing as writer's block. There are ebbs and flows, there are natural seasons in which you're meant to read or rest or listen or party, like live. Um, it's really okay. Writer's block as a concept has actually done a lot of damage because people think something's wrong with them. Nothing's wrong with you.
So you mean writer's block is something which should be embraced and it is a part and parcel of a writer's life.
Well, it's like this. We all need to sleep each night. It's the same thing, the engine needs rest. It's totally natural. Um, it can be incredibly frustrating, and especially when I'll give you an example. There is a novel that I've been trying to write since I was 9 years old. I'm in my mid 30s now. And sometimes I don't touch it for a year, 2 years. I've written, illustrated, published 7 other books and a chapbook in that time. Um, but I am committed to that project. The fact that I've not written it, not completed it in a decade and a half, more than that, in fact, um, doesn't deter me. If I was to think that, I'm just blocked, I can't do it, then I won't do it. And I think this really gets in the way of a lot of people who just, the frustration and which intermingles with all the other fears and anxieties that we have as creators. Yeah, just let it rest. Let it rest. That's all you need to do.
And what can we look forward to next? So after Incantations Over Water, what's the next thing coming up?
My it's been incredibly demoralizing to know that my 2 books here, Mermaids in the Moonlight and Incantations Over Water, are going out of print. Incantations has Incantations was released at the end of December, and Mermaids was released almost exactly a year ago in February 2021. The short shelf lives of these books that I poured my heart and soul into, um, that's really had a demoralizing impact on my, uh, on just getting back. But like I said, sometimes you just have to give it a rest. With emotions of all of this. So I don't know what's next right now. I'm literally just desperately trying to get people to buy Mermaids in the Moonlight before February 15th. Please donate it to libraries. Please gift it. This book really does have my heart, and I'm just going to show you some of my mermaids really quickly. I don't think you can see them very well.
No,
But
those
yeah,
images are visible. Yeah.
there is that's good. And then
Yes.
incantations as well, also going out of print. And I mean, it's so painful to think about that. Um, I don't know if readers have really understood what this means to have a whole publisher be shut down. It means that the books will simply no longer be available to read. Libraries may or may not have them, bookstores cannot sell them. Um, and as I said, all of us behind these books, whether on the Westland team or the authors, translators, illustrators, we are humans, we're people, and this is an incredibly devastating emotional setback. So yeah, if you can, please do support us. Please bring our books into your homes in the few remaining days that you can. Um, yeah,
Sharanya, since this is the Feminist Poetry Festival, the last question from my side to you is: who is your favorite feminist author, and why?
no one can really have a favorite. We just have um, books that are companions and travel with us at different stages in our lives. So I don't have a favorite, but I can say that one feminist poet who is special to me is the medieval Tamil poet Andal. I wrote a novel about her called The Queen of Jasmine Country, which weaves her verses into the plotline itself.
Right. Sharanya, we have almost come to the end of our panel. Is there something you would like to say which I should have asked but I did not? Any last
No,
thoughts?
I just want to say thank you for this space and this platform, and also for highlighting poetry. Even though my poetry is not the reason why I'm here today, poetry itself is often neglected by readers, by teachers, by publishers, by the media. So I really appreciate that She the People has provided space.
Thank you so much. Thank you.